you doing today?
Hi, good
Hi.
morning from Jogja.
Good
From Jogja.
morning. So,
Yes.
Pharaoh, let's talk about education for the visually impaired. So, what type of communication method and media are used to teach the visually impaired in class? Can you walk us through this?
Okay, so I think now the government has already give us quite good facilities for that, especially for the visually impaired people or like the blinds, because blind also categorized by like total blind, short sight and long sight.
Oh,
So they
okay.
already give like enough facilitations for that. So like in terms of teaching, sometimes they also use Braille, like to read or to write,
Okay.
and they also provides like material, but they usually because the teacher is still not the disabilities people, so they
Okay.
still use like the normal textbooks,
How-
and they tend to just teach as usual.
Okay. How about the medias, Pharaoh?
I think for the medias, especially for the special schools, I mean, there are like more like special schools and university now that already aware of these disabilities people. For the university, they already have quite good media such as like audiobooks, something like that.
Nice.
But maybe for the special school, they don't really have quite much facilitations like that. That's why we try to help them by making another like audiobook, especially for the textbook.
I see.
All right. Vero, what about the status quo today? Are Braille books still being printed by publishers? Do they deem it profitable to be
Sure.
printed?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there is one institution called Abioso. They usually produce a lot of Braille books, but I don't think that they produce that much because, like, the demand is a lot. Meanwhile, like the tools like the printer and something like that, it's still, limited. So even though they can produce Braille books, they cannot accommodate for all of the students. And I think it also depends on the demands of the schools or like the institution that need it. So they don't just like, okay, I want to make one Braille book and then I'm going to print that. So they cannot do that also.
Okay.
So it depends on how the books were going to be used. Is it the people also still use it or not? Because the production of Braille book itself needs a lot of money. It costs a lot, and it needs a lot of time too to produce, right? So yeah, it's better to produce that really the book that's it's really needed.
I see. So it's just for specific books, just like you said. And also, Pharaoh, you have mentioned that the visually impaired community are actually shifting their focus to audiobooks as their main method for consuming literature. Since you are one of the pioneers of the visually impaired community in Indonesia, how did they respond to this change? How do they adapt to this change?
All right. So actually, the ideas of audiobook we got it from themselves. So I have a social community named Braille'iant in Indonesia. We have like like many kinds of services to help them, such as reading service. So reading service is a like activities when where we came to their schools because we found out that the teacher was still using like the normal textbooks, so they asked us to read the book for them.
Oh, okay.
And we have volunteers to do that, but like at one time we found out that we cannot do this like every day because maybe the volunteers don't have much time to go with there and help them, and maybe they need right now like today.
Okay.
But unfortunately we don't have that time. That's why we're trying to find like a way to help them. And I think audiobook is really good because if we produce the audiobook, like every time they need to read the book, they can listen to it. They don't have to like, anybody can help me to read this textbook while they need it tomorrow, something like that. So we try to make one audiobook. So we borrow the textbook from school, and then
Okay.
we take the pictures of that, and then we try to record it.
I
Um,
see.
and then after that, we gave the recordings to the school,
I
to
see.
the library, and then I think they give like a good response of that, because yeah, they need that.
I
and
see.
and um, and then they also at the time, because they still don't have the cell phone, so
Okay.
they just use the computer, one in the library, so they take turns to listen to the
I
audiobooks.
see. So up
And
until now, how do you distribute the audiobooks?
so we actually have like partners, like special
Okay.
schools, partners. So when we already done to produce our audiobook, we distributed by emails, or we came to the
Oh,
special
okay.
schools, and then we gave them on CDs,
I
because
see.
audiobook also like quite heavy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fero, I'm a subscriber to one of the biggest audiobooks streaming
Platform.
services,
Me
if you say
too.
Audible.
Yes.
So how is the production process different if you were to make an audiobook for the visually impaired? Is it different than just normal audiobooks?
It's actually the same, but I mean, our focus now is actually on the textbooks, because like audiobooks that like in one in Audibles usually has an audio about novels or like stories. Meanwhile, for textbooks, we still like have a little amounts of that. So we are more focused on the textbooks or like articles usually used by like students in the university, because our visually impaired friends also going to university, they also work and something like that. So we are focused on the textbook, like main information that they maybe
Yeah.
cannot get from any other sources. So
Okay.
it's actually not that different, because it doesn't really require like like special tone like the one you usually use when
Oh,
you
okay.
read some novels.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's actually more like
Simple,
easy
right?
to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real simple.
Okay. So our visually impaired friends, how do they respond to this? Is it more effective than Braille? What are the data now that you have? What is your opinion about this audiobook? Will it help them more, or I don't know?
Yeah, so we already start to make audiobooks since 2016, and we actually start from 2014, I guess. So we try to make recordings about stories first, because
okay.
we still have no like we have zero information about making audiobooks, and then we also test like the audio to them, like whether they like it or not, and they say they like it, and is it quite like helpful or like beneficial for them, and they said yeah, especially when they can operate a cell phone now, like
Oh,
they can
yes,
use
that's right.
the cell phone now.
Yeah.
So it's really handy if
Yeah.
if we compare to the Braille book,
Yeah.
which is so big and so heavy.
That's right.
As you can see, like there, the box there, that's actually a Braille book. So it really needs a lot of spaces if you want to,
Yes.
keep the book, and and if you want to like read again.
Yeah.
So it's really simple. It's more simple with audiobook, especially if you can like put in your cell phone and you can go anywhere.
With the book, right?
Some of my some of my blind friends also, they work as a like a snack seller that going around Jogja, and while they're waiting for the customers, they can also listen to the book.
That's
So that's
nice.
really helpful.
It's
Yeah.
more
Yes.
convenient than
So
Yeah.
you can carry it
it's
anywhere
really
and
convenient.
Yeah.
study anywhere, they say. Well, Vero, we heard that there are education institutions in Yogyakarta which offers audiobook corners for the visually impaired. Did you have a hand in forming them, and can you talk more about it to us?
Okay, so it is called Braille Corner. So it's actually like a room for defable people. Like, so we call it defable, right? Like different
Different
ability.
abilities.
Yeah. So we call it defable corner. So that corner or that one special room is actually it's full of facilitations for our disabled friends. So they usually have like computers to listen to the audiobook, something like that, or like an ebook,
That's
or
wonderful.
they also provides like a scanner, like copy scanner.
Yeah?
So when they
What does
cannot
it do?
find any ebook, yeah, they can scan the book and then they change it with the OCR into something like ebook. So
Oh,
the
I
tools
see.
on the laptop or the cell phone can read uh, the pages.
I see.
So that's really helpful.
That's
That's
very
really helpful.
helpful.
Now, I've got one personal question, Vero. Can other volunteers just to dub audiobooks? It's been a dream of mine, and to volunteer and to help the movement, I think that's a pretty good cause.
Sure. I mean, since 2016, we gained like more and more volunteers to do this, and I'm really happy because it's actually our first goals is actually to introduce and to raise the awareness
Yes.
of people about disabilities. And one of the fun way is actually by producing this audiobook. So producing this audiobook is not only like, okay, we record our voice and that's it, but the volunteer usually also feel like, oh, now I know how hard to be
Yeah.
uh, blind friends, even just to read a book. Meanwhile, sometimes we just like really lazy. It's just, it's in front of our eyes, but
Yeah.
we don't want to read it. But,
Yeah.
so that's actually a very fun way to introduce and to raise the awareness of disabilities, especially for
Yeah.
like the blind, blind friends.
Okay.
So from 2016, we gained so much volunteers. Like this year, I think we got like more than 400 volunteers
Wow, that's
um,
nice.
that joins our movement. Yeah, so
Okay.
this is very.
Okay.
I'm so happy that we finally came to this
Okay, so how
point
do we
now.
contact you if we want to volunteer to dub audiobook, Pero?
Okay, yeah. So you can always visit our Instagram in Braille'iant Indonesia. We usually update many informations about that because, like this year, we got like 3 times of like times in making the audiobooks. So we don't really know exactly when. Sometimes you can do like 3 times a year, or like 4 times a year, or 2 times a year. So make sure to check the information on the Instagram because we usually update
Okay.
any information about that there.
Okay, so if we want to dub, we can just follow them on social media and then we can message them if we want to volunteer. So what you're doing here, Fero, is admirable. So today we would commemorate World Braille Day. Do you have any message that you want to convey to our visually impaired friends out there, or maybe our society?
Okay, so for our visually impaired friends, you're doing great. And I'm so happy to see the progress because I start this Braille'iant Indonesia is from 2010, and it is already 12 years of me looking at how our Braille friends, our visually impaired friends, always do their best to reach their dreams from Braille to audio, from Braille to the ebook and something like that. They always want to be independent and always want to reach their goals and reach their dreams. So you're doing great. Keep this great achievement, and I'm sure you can also achieve more from that. And also for like the society, I think tak kenal maka tak sayang. So let's try to, you know, to know more about these amazing people.
Alrighty,
Thank
thank you.
you.
That's
Thank you,
Veronica
Vero.
Christamia Juniarmi, founder of Braille'iant Indonesia, for the information. All the best. Good luck for your future
Stay
endeavors.
safe, Vero.
Stay safe.
Stay
Bye
inspiring.
bye. Thanks for talking to us in the morning.
Thank you.
Oh my God.